Okay, so we talked about having our semester exam the next time we see you. Um, and so I want to go over the semester exam review so that way you're somewhat prepared um, for that final for the end of the semester. So we'll go over a couple of questions. We'll include a couple more Padlets, and then you will submit this Google form as a sort of exit ticket, so that way I kind of know where you're at, so that we're kind of on the same page as we move forward. So we'll get started with this. It'll be the same thing that we've kind of been doing. I'll go back and forth between the questions and kind of annotate on my laptop. So semester review. So the first question says, what is the solution to the equation 64 over 7 times x, letting that all be equal to 8? What is the solution? So what does x have to be on the left side to make the right side true? So the way that we So if I have 60, I have 64 over 7x, let it all be equal to 8. I'm trying to get x by itself. To get x by itself, I need to first get rid of my fraction. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 7. If I multiply the left side by 7 and the right side by 7, I get rid of that fraction. I'm left with just 64 over x. 8 times 7 is going to be 56. And then I can divide both sides by 64. And then I get x by itself. I have 56 divided by 64. Now that fraction will reduce. I know I can divide the top and the bottom by 8. If I divide the top by 8, I get 7. If I divide the bottom by 8, I get 8. So in our Google form for our semester exam, we should have 7 over 8. For the second question, it says, what is the simplified form of 3y plus 5 minus negative 8y plus negative 11? So all it wants us to do is simplify, which should be easy enough. So if the second question is just simplification, I have 3y plus 5 minus negative 8. And this just goes back to combining like terms. But first we have to drop all of the parentheses. The only thing to kind of distribute is that minus sign in front of our negative 8. We know that anytime I have minus a negative, that's going to be a plus positive. So this is going to be y plus 3y plus 5 plus 8 minus 11. All I'm going to do is combine my like terms. Oh, so kind of wrote this wrong. There we go. So I forgot to put that y inside our negative 8y. The only thing we had to distribute with that was that minus negative. Because this is plus negative 11, it's just going to be minus 11. And then I can combine my whole numbers, and then I can combine my variables. So I know that 3y plus 8 is going to be 11y. And then I know 5 minus 11 is going to be negative 6. So 11y minus 6 should be our answer. 11y minus 6 should be our answer. The next couple of questions are a little bit different. So I have this actually written in the wrong spot. What I want us to do. Oh. I have that in the description, but I want it as our answer. So instead of just giving me the answer, I want you to put into words the steps that you would take to solve these mathematical problems. So the first question is just multiply the following binomials. So in my description for my answer, I accidentally wrote it up here, but I can honestly just have it down here as well. I can't even see it. But what I want is I want full sentences for answers. I want you to walk me through the process of solving these problems. Walk me through the process of multiplying the following binomials. So in my explanation, I did distribute 3a. So I start with 3a. I distribute 3a to the two terms inside the second pair of the parentheses. And I don't even know if I spelled parentheses right. I'm pretty sure that's horribly wrong. And I spelled multiplying wrong as well. So, apologize about my misspelling. I was kind of writing it in a hurry, and I really like to use autocorrect. So, distribute 3a to the two terms inside the second pair of parentheses by multiplying 3a by 2a and 8. So if I'm multiplying 3a times 2a, 3a times 8, and then doing the same thing with -1. So then I multiply -1 times 2a, multiply -1 times 8. The result will be a polynomial with 4 terms, where 2 of which can combine and simplify. So all I want you to do is, I'm pretty sure you should know how to do these problems, but I want you to be able to um, form complete and well-thought sentences on the steps that you would take to solve these problems. And just for reference, if you forgot or if you don't remember or if you have trouble with something like this, 3a minus 1, 2a plus 8. What should happen is someone should be able to read your description of what you wrote out and should be able to solve the problem. So if somebody in middle school or at the edge of the end of elementary school should be able to read this and follow the steps as you listed. So in my description, I said distribute 3a to the two terms inside the second pair of parentheses by multiplying 3a by 2a and 8. So distribute 3a by multiplying it by 2a and then 8. So 3a times 2a is going to be 6a squared. 3a times 8 is going to be 24a. -1, we're going to do the same thing. Here, multiply -1. -1 times 2a, -1 times 8. And then, in the second part, I kind of skipped it, but in the second part I said, doing the same thing with -1, multiplying that term by 2a and 8 as well, which I did with the blue. The result will be a polynomial with 4 terms. So I have a polynomial with 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Where 2 of which can combine and simplify. So those middle 2 terms will combine and I can simplify. My polynomial or trinomial will be 6a squared plus 22a minus 8. Now, this is my answer, but for my Google form, I want you to put what I have written up top. So this is more so what I'm looking for. a paragraph or 3 or 4 sentences describing the process for multiplying binomials, multiplying and factoring this out. And then I want you to do the same thing with the evaluate question. So if we know that 4 is equal to n and a is equal to -3, I want you to write out in words how to solve those problems. So I'm going to solve these problems, but I want you to put them, I try to model it here for you for that first one, but I'm going to show you how to do the next 2 questions if you've forgotten or have trouble with something like this. So if we have -7ab times 3a to the 4th power plus 8ab minus 14b to the 5th power. So what we're going to do here is we're going to distribute that -7ab to each term inside the parentheses. So multiply it by each term inside the parentheses. That's going to be our first step. What I want you to make note of is when you multiply, how everything ends up simplifying. I have to multiply -7 and 3, that's going to be -21. When I multiply a times a, that's going to be a squared. When I multiply b times b to the 4th power, I get b to the 5th power. And then the same thing for that second term. -7 times 8 is going to be -56. I'm sorry, a times a is going to be a squared. B times b is also going to be b squared. -7 times 14. I need a calculator for this one. 7 times 14. -7 times -14 is going to be positive 98. There is no a, so it's just going to represent itself, multiplying it by 1, essentially, since there's not another a variable. And then b times b to the 5th power is going to be b to the 6th power. I kind of want you, in your explanation, it's really simple to talk about distributing that one term on the outside of the parentheses inside each of the 3 terms, but I want you to tell me about the multiplying variables with exponents. So what it looks like when you multiply a times itself, when you multiply b times another b with a higher exponent. Expand on that and put it in your own words and be as well thought out as possible with those sentences and explanations. For the third or maybe fourth question, the fourth question. It says evaluate 3a minus n squared minus 2an if a is equal to -3 and n is equal to 4. So if we have 3a minus n squared minus 2an, where a is equal to -3, n is equal to +4. All I'm doing is plugging in -3 for my a and plugging in 4 for my n. This is -3. I have to keep that minus. All I did was for every time I saw an A or every time I saw an N, I plugged in what it's equal to. So I plugged in either -3 or 4 to evaluate the expression. The first thing that I need to do is simplify the inside of this parentheses that has a exponent next to it. So -3 minus 4, that's going to be -7. -7 squared minus 2 times -3 times +4. Then the next thing I need to do is apply that exponent. -7 squared is going to be positive 49. It's 2, it's 3. And then I can start to multiply. 49 is going to be 147. So 3 times 49 is going to be 147. Then I'm going to multiply everything out on the left. I'm going to go -2 times -3 times +4. I keep writing it wrong in my calculator. -2 times -3. Plus 24. -2 times -3 is going to be 6. 6 times 4 is going to be 24. Remember, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. That's why it ended up being plus 24. Then if I have 24 plus 147, that's going to be 171. Again, remember, I'm not looking for the correct answer for those couple of questions. So for this question, I'm looking for you to give me words and sentences on how to solve multiplying binomials. Same thing for this question and same for the question that we just kind of did together. So even though I showed you how to do it, I want you to put in your own words each step by step. The next question says, what is the solution to the equation 6 times 2h minus 7 equal to 3 times 5h minus 4? Okay, so for this question, we have 6 times 2h minus 7 equal to 3 5h minus 4. This question is just asking for, is our answer -10, -11, is it 10, or is it +11? So we're going back to normal math. We're just trying to solve this. We're trying to figure out what h has to be to make this equation true. So 12h minus 42, 3 times 5, 3 times -4. Then I can try to get h by itself. I'm going to subtract 12h from the left. 12h. Remember, I subtract it from one side because I'm trying to get rid of it. So 12 minus 12 is going to be 0. My variable on the left is going to get rid of itself. On the right-hand side, if I have 15h minus 12h, I'm going to get 3h. The reason I didn't move 15 to the left is because if I did that, then I would have a -3 instead of a +3, and that would involve an extra step. So that's why I moved the 12 from the left to the right instead of the 15 from the right to the left. Now I'm going to move that -12 from the right left. This should be negative 30 is equal to 3h. I divide both sides by 3. Negative 10 equals h. Negative 10 equal to h. For this question is a little bit different. I want to go back to our Padlet. So I know we did a Padlet in the beginning of class. I want to go back to it right now. So for this question, it says, given 6, 10 and 3, 4, what is the y-intercept of the line through the points? So we're trying to come up with our y-intercept for the 2 points. So for the 2 points, you come up with your equation. After you come up with your equation, you should be able to tell me what the y-intercept is. So the same thing that we did for these 3 questions earlier, I want us to do the same thing, but in a Padlet form. So in full and complete, well thought out sentences, tell me how you would solve number 7 from the review. So same thing. I want you to not just give me the correct answer, but tell me step by step what steps I would take for 6, 10, 3, 4. If I just have those 2 points, how do I find the y-intercept? There are multiple ways to find the y-intercept. I'm curious to know what your steps would be to take to find the solution, to find our y-intercept. So I'll give us about maybe 3 minutes to do so. I'll put the Padlet link in our chat. You should be able to respond. And then I want to see everyone's responses, and then we'll kind of move forward. For anyone confused, I want to re-explain the directions one more time, just in case we were going a little too fast. So we're doing our semester exam review. In the first couple of questions, we were practicing writing our answers as sentences in complete thought out paragraphs, so that way those are steps to solve multiplying binomials, steps to distributing, steps to evaluating, and so complete sentences for how you approach problems. Going back to my example, so for multiplying binomials, I wrote out all the steps that I would take. So I want you to do the same thing for this question, but instead of in our replying in our or doing it in our Google Forms, I want you to do it in our Padlet. So I said you'd have about 3 minutes. We've spent about 1 minute and 30 seconds, so I'll give you about another 1.5 minutes to do this. about 45 more seconds. All right, so start wrapping up about 10 more seconds. Okay, so make sure that you are posting in these. The reason for posting here is so that way I can provide you feedback. If you don't know, this is a good opportunity for me to understand that you don't know how to do something like this. That way I can kind of check in on you, make sure that you and me are on the same page on how we do this question. I'm going to skip this question because I'm curious to see everyone's answers. Let's see. Next question is, which ordered pair is a solution to the equation y equal to negative 2x plus 1? So if we have the ordered pairs negative 2, 3, negative 3, comma 5, negative 2, 5, 8, 7. So the question is asking which ordered pair is a solution. So for it to be a solution, we have to plug in this for x, this for y, and we're trying to figure out if I plug in negative 2 for x, 3 for y, will it make my equation true? Will the left side and the right side be equal to each other? So 3, I plugged in 3 for y because that's my ordered pair. Negative 2 times negative 2 because, again, in my ordered pair, I have negative 2 for x. So 3 is equal to positive 4 plus 1. 3 is equal to 5, and that is not true. 3 is not equal to 5. So we tried for that first ordered pair, so now that didn't work. So now we're going to try the second one. We're going to put 5 for y, negative 2 times negative 3 plus 1. This is going to be 5 plus 6 plus 1. Again, 5 does not equal 7. We're going to try it one more time. Don't forget our equation is y equals negative 2x plus 1. So we're plugging in 5 for y. Negative 2 times negative 2 plus 1. Negative 2 times negative 2 is going to be 4. 4 plus 1 is going to be 5. So I can kind of stop right there. I know negative 2 comma 5 is going to be a solution to my equation. Negative 2 comma 5. The next question says, which is the incorrect step in the solution shown below? So you have 3 times the parentheses, 3 times x, 3 times 1, minus 4 is equal to 2. That's going to simplify, at least in step 1, to 3x plus 3 minus 4 equal to 2. Then it's going to go to 3x plus 1 equal to 2, and then 3x equal to 1, x equal to 1 over 3. The one step that they messed up on, so you had everything was correct. 3x plus 3 minus 4 equal to 2. The one step they messed up on was when they combined like terms here. Instead of a negative 1, they got a positive 1. So they had 3x. In the original question, it says step 2, 3x plus 1. Instead of plus 1, when we combine 3 and negative 4, instead of getting a positive 1, we should actually get a negative 1. That is where the problem. So then we add 1 to both sides. 3x is equal to 3. Divide 3 by both sides. X equals 1. It didn't ask for the correct answer, it just asked where your where the incorrect step occurred, and that would be step 2. The next question says, what is the solution to the inequality 8 minus 2x less than 12? 8 minus 2x, 8 minus 2x less than 12. So to find our inequality, or the solutions to our inequality, all we have to do is get x by itself. We're going to subtract 8 from both sides. We get negative 2x less than positive 4. To get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. I get x. Anytime I divide or multiply by a negative number for inequalities, I need to switch my sign. So this is going to go from a less than sign to a greater than sign. 4 divided by negative 2 is going to be negative 2. And that should be my answer. X is greater than negative 2. The next question is asking, what is the x-intercept for the equation 5x plus 3y is equal to negative 15? So if I have 5x plus 3y equal to negative 15, I'm trying to figure out what my x-intercept would be. If I have a graph, I know my x-intercept is going to occur somewhere on my x-axis. That is where my x-intercept occurs, when it crosses the x-axis. So I know that when I have ordered pairs, this is going to be positive 1, negative 1, negative 2, positive 2. So anytime I have the ordered pair of the coordinates for my x-intercept, I know that for my ordered pair, my y is going to equal 0. I don't know what my x is, but I know that my y is going to equal 0. What I can do is I can plug in 0 for y for this equation to find what x is. Times 0 equals negative 15. If I plug in 0 for y, then I can find what x would be when y equals 0. So I have 5x 0 minus 15. I don't have to move anything because 0 just kind of simplifies and goes away. 5x equals negative 15. Then I can divide both sides by 5. X equals negative 3. Remember that not just x equals negative 3, but in our question, it's an ordered pair. So our ordered pair should be x is negative 3, but y is 0. Negative 3 comma 0. Our answer should have been B, or that second answer choice. For this question, it says, which line is the graph of 6x plus 4y equal to 12? So if we have 6x plus 4y equal to 12. There are multiple ways to do this. The one way I'm going to do, one way I'm going to do this is get this into the form y equals mx plus b. If I get it into slope-intercept form, then I can know my slope, I can know my y-intercept, and it should be easy to look at a couple of graphs that way. So all I have to do is get y by itself for what I already have. So I'm going to subtract 6x from the left and the right. I get 4y equals negative 6x plus 12. Then I'm going to divide everything by 4. This by 4. This by 4. I get y is equal to negative. I'm going to leave this as a fraction, but I'm going to simplify the fraction to 3 over 2x. This is going to be plus 3. So this is my y equals mx plus b. So my slope should be negative 3 over 2, and my y-intercept should be 3. So I'm looking for I'm looking first for my y-intercept. If my y-intercept is 3, I know it should be 1, 2, 3. So this is a possible solution, option D. 1, 2, 3. This is a possible solution. 1, 2, 3. A is not. 1, 2, 3. C is not. So it's in between B and D, and it comes down to our slope. Our slope is negative 3 over 2. Anytime you have rise over run. So that top number is how far up and down we're going. That bottom number is how far left and right we're going. If there was not a negative, we would be going up and to the right. When we go, if this was positive 3 over 2, let's say we started at the origin, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So for our slope, if we had rise over run and it was positive 3 over 2, we'd be going up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. And our point would go right here, right here. That would be our slope. Because our slope is negative, instead of going up and to the right, we're going to go up and to the left. So 1, 2, 3. So it's either up and to the left, 1, 2, 3, and then right here. So we're going up 1, 2, 3, and then over 1, 2. Remember, these are just examples. I'm talking just about slope, just about negative and positive slope, which direction we go when we're talking about it and how we graph it. Remember, our y-intercept is still going to be 3. So we're still looking for our y-intercept of 3, and then we have a slope of negative 3 over 2. So if it's negative 3 over 2, I should be able to go down 3 and over 2. 1, 2, 3, and then over 1, 2. So B should be our answer. And then option 4 does the opposite. It goes down 2 and then over 3. So B should have been our answer. What is the slope and y-intercept of the line 3x plus 5y is equal to 8? So to figure this out, we can again put it in y equals mx plus b form. So if I'm trying to get y by itself, I'm going to subtract 3x from the left. I'm going to subtract 3x from the right. I have 5y is equal to negative 3x plus 8. If I'm trying to get y by itself, I'm going to divide everything by 5. So then I should have y equal negative 3 over 5 plus 8 over 5. So my slope is going to be negative 3 over 5, and my y-intercept is going to be 8 over 5. Slope is negative 3 over 5. So it's negative 3 over 5, negative 3 over 5, and then our y-intercept was 8 over 5. So our answer should have been C. This one's pretty simplistic. All it's asking is, what is the x-intercept of the graph? We talked about how the x-intercept is just going to be along the x-axis. You should see it crosses right there at positive 2. So our answer should be positive 2. Second one is again about inequalities. Which of the following graphs is represented by the inequality y is greater than or equal to 2x minus 1? Y is greater than or equal to 2x minus 1. So there are a couple of ways that we graph our inequalities. First, we have to look at our sign. If we have a greater than or a less than sign, our line is going to be dashed. If we have a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, our line is going to be solid. So this kind of goes back to number lines. If I have x is greater than 1, 0, 2, so if x is greater than 1, we're going to start at 1. But if I plug in 1 for x, 1 is not greater than 1. It's the same, but it's not. That's false. So that's kind of why we have, if we're coming up with the solutions and we're graphing inequalities on a number line, if we're saying x is greater than 1, we leave that circle open and we shade everything past 1. So it can be 2, 3, 4, anything to the right of it, but it can't be 1 itself. It can be 1.5, 1.7, anything bigger than 1. And so that's the same idea behind having dashed lines and solid lines for your inequalities with two variables. So we first have to look at our inequality symbol. Is it dashed? Is it solid? It is solid. So if we look at our answers, we can immediately take away B and D, so it's either A or C. Now we have to figure out which side is it shaded on. Is it shaded above or is it shaded below? So what we can do is we can pick a point on our graph. If we pick a point right above, let's say 0, 1. So 0, 1 is right above the line. 0, 1 is right above the line. All we're trying to figure out is if we plug in 0, 1 for our inequality, it should either be true or false. So if we put this point in, if it's true, then that's the side that we're going to shade on. If it's false, then it's going to be on the opposite side. So we are choosing, let's see, so we're starting at -1. Our Slope is 2 over 1, 2. So this is what our graph looks like. It's solid. What we're doing is we're picking a point. We're picking this point right here, and we're going to plug it in. This is 0, 1, and we're going to plug it in for x and for y. Plugging in here and here. When we do that, we either get a true or false statement. If it's true, then we're going to shade on the top. If it's false, and when we plug in 0, 1, we're going to shade on the bottom. So if y is 1 greater than or equal to 2 times 0 minus 1, 2 times 0 is just going to be 0. 0 minus 1. And this is in fact true, because 1 is greater than or equal to -1. Positive 1 is bigger than -1. So we're going to shade everything on the top because it was true. So that should be our answer. Couple more questions. This one says, which equation represents the line through the point 2, 5 with a slope of 3, 2? So for this one, you have all of the answer choices all have 3 over 2 for your slope. So you're just trying to figure out what is the y-intercept. So if we have 2, 5, we have a slope 3 over 2. We're going to put this in the form y equals mx plus b. So we're going to put in m for our slope, 2 for our x, and then 5 for our y. So we have 5 for y, 3 over 2 for our slope, 2 for x, and then we're trying to solve for b. 2 times our fraction is just going to get rid of that denominator. I'm going to be left with 5, 3 plus b. Then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides to get b by itself. I'm left with positive 2 equal to b. So if I know b is 2, my slope is 3 over 2. Y equals 3 over 2x plus 2. Next one says, what is the next step in solving the equation 12 equals 5 minus 3x plus 2? So what is the next step? The next step would be to distribute inside that parentheses. So -3 times x, -3 times 2. If you can see, a doesn't even distribute, doesn't get rid of the parentheses, so that one is incorrect. B does distribute the -3 times our x, but it does not multiply -3 times 2 to get -6. So because that positive 2 never changes, that is also incorrect. You have part C, which distributes to both terms, -3 times x, which is 3x, -3 times 2. It's not +6, it would actually be -6 because -3 times +2 would be -6. So our answer should be option 4. We should distribute and get -3x minus 6. Now we're just asked to simplify. So we have 4x to the 6th power, 12x times y cubed. Let's go 4x to the 6th power by 12x y cubed. So first I'm gonna simplify my whole numbers. So 4 divided by 12, that will simplify to 1 over 3. If I divide the top by 4, divide the bottom by 4, I get 1/3. That simplifies. And then I have x to the 6th power and then x. Remember, if I have 2x divided by x, those cancel out. I'm just left with 1x on top. Essentially, that's what's happening here. If I have 5, 6 x's, and then I have 1 on the bottom, I know that just one of those is going to cancel out. I'm going to be left with 5 x's on top. There are no y's, so y's is just going to stay the same, 3y. Because we have that x to the 5th, we really don't need that 1 in front of it. We know there's an understood 1, so it's x to the 5th divided by 3y to the 3rd power. X to the 5th, 3y to the 3rd power. We are at our last question. All it's asking is to simplify. So if we're looking to simplify, we have x squared, y squared, times 2x squared, y squared cubed. Anytime I have something in parentheses and I have an exponent I'm raising it to the power of, I need to distribute it inside everything that's within the parentheses. So I need to raise 2 to the power of 3. I need to raise x squared to the power of 3, and I need to raise y squared to the power of 3. So this is going to be x squared, y squared. I know that this is going to be 2 cubed. Anytime I'm raising an exponent to another power, you're going to multiply. So this is going to be 2 times 3. That's going to be x to the 6th power. Again, 2 times 3. That's going to be y to the 6th power. Anytime you raise an exponent to another power, you multiply them. X squared, y squared, 2 cubed is going to be 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 times 2 is going to be 8. X to the 6th power, y to the 6th power. Now, I'm still multiplying these two parentheses. So if I'm multiplying, I still can multiply x's times themselves and the y's times themselves. When you multiply something with an exponent, what you're doing is you're adding. When you raise it to another power, you multiply. When you multiply exponents, you add. So x squared plus x to the 6th is going to be 8x to the 8th power. Y squared times y to the 6th power is again y to the 8th power. So we should have 8 x to the 8th and y to the 8th. And we are finished. Make sure that you submit this. I'm going to see all of the ones that were assigned and all the ones that are submitted, so that way I know that you followed along. If you didn't follow along, I'm probably going to have to talk with you, speak with you. But we are finished for the day. Rest of class is going to be finishing this out if you have not finished it. If you have extra time and you want to work on assignments from previous weeks in Unit 4 or Unit 5, you may do so as of right now. Next time we meet, we will be taking that semester exam. So hopefully you are prepared and ready for that. Let me know if you have any questions. And then we'll kind of finish out class independently. And I'll kind of meet with a couple people here and there if I need to.